Hello everybody.
First off, I'd like to acknowledge that we are gathered on Biripi land, pay my respect to Biripi elders past and present, and extend that respect to all other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who may be joining us this evening. Welcome to our live Q&A session. This session is around Council looking at
Our plans for the community
for the future, and we wanted to look at different ways that we can connect with our community through this engagement process. So this is one of the options. We'll be having 3 Q&As over the next 3 weeks, covering off different sections, including overall, what is our plan, our community look like for the next 4 years? What are our major projects will be next week? And then finally,
the third week we'll be talking with some staff and sharing some insights from what they see from inside council from what we're going to deliver over the next 4 years. So those documents that we're talking about really set the scene for what is being delivered.
We have our community strategic plan, which is basically your
Vision for what you
would like to see us bring into the community. We have our delivery program, really drives that 4-year focus, and then we have our annual operational plan, which hones in on those 12 months. There's also a whole lot of supporting documents through the resourcing strategy, which we'll talk
more about later. But first off, I would like to welcome our Mayor, Adam Roberts, who's going to talk a little bit about our future.
Thank you, Lucilla, and it's a pleasure to be with you guys here in studio, but also to talk to our community in this very unique forum and format. So well done for staff for pulling that together. Over the last several years in particular, under the leadership of former Mayor and CEO Peter Pinson and Dr Claire Allen, I've seen our council work hard on taking a more strategic approach to the delivery of key infrastructure and services to support the significant growth we're currently experiencing and the growth that we're expecting to realise in coming years. I've seen the operational efficiency gains and substantial uplift in our expertise, dedication to higher quality of delivery, in particular relation to core services and key projects, which now dominate our current and hopefully continued future approach. Planning for the future success and livability of a region as complex and as amazing as ours here in the Port Macquarie Hastings takes a lot of work by a lot of people. I want to thank our ratepayers and community for their feedback over a number of years that has contributed to our plans and also our strategies. I want to thank our acting CEO, Mr Robert Fish, and his executive team for their leadership, with the help of their teams of staff, of course, in developing and drafting the plans we now have in front of us. I do also want to make special mention of the council staff that practically deliver year on year the projects and services set out in our plans and strategies. Your work is acknowledged and appreciated by many in our community. Our community will no doubt recognise there are a number of major infrastructure projects in progress, including major road upgrades and repairs, as well as footpath upgrades, which are easy to see. But there are also critical water and sewer infrastructure projects underway, which are less visible, but are absolutely essential to providing the services required to keep our amazing region and our economy progressing. These projects come at a huge financial cost in the hundreds of millions of dollars and span multiple years. A number of these projects are the most ambitious that our council staff and community have ever undertaken, which will certainly test our capabilities, but no doubt once completed leave a positive uptick in experience, confidence and the ability to continue to deliver high quality projects well into the future. At this time, I believe it's critical that Council continue to prioritise these big infrastructure pieces that will ensure economic stability, connectivity and provide substantial growth for our region. I believe the plans we now have on exhibition address the key issues and opportunities facing our region, including those I've mentioned, but these plans are also set in the context of realising that we need to continue to be mindful of the fragile state of the economy, our ratepayers' capacity to pay, and as a council operating efficiently and effectively within our means. On a personal note and relevant to the plans we have in front of us, I see a large part of my role in the coming years as highlighting the gaps, getting out in front of the known challenges facing our region to ensure as seamless as possible transition from what we knew as a small and coastal regional hinterland population to what we now see as an emerging regional city, which we are very fast becoming. One of the immediate major gaps I see is a lack of general financial support for regional councils just like ours to deliver the massive infrastructure required to keep up with the apparent and possible growth of our population. But in a simple statement, it's essential that the New South Wales Government and, where possible, the federal government support our community with funding assistance for the critical infrastructure we know we desperately need just to keep up. I'll continue to reach out for support from both of these levels of government to help us as a council deliver the infrastructure and services to continue to make the Port Macquarie Hastings the most amazing place on earth to live, work and also do business. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Great statement. Oh, okay.
Apparently we need to swap out my mic. So I'm going to talk through this mic. Next up, we've got Acting CEO Rob Fish, who's going to talk about Council's direction as an organisation.
Yeah, thanks, Lucilla, and also to the Mayor for your introductions. Yeah, I'll provide, I guess, background to the integrated planning and reporting framework and how that, I guess, integrates into our planning for the future as an organisation going forward. So across New South Wales, all local government is required to plan and deliver for its community, and the integrated planning and reporting framework provides for that. Following election, a local government election, which we had back in September, the new council must adopt the new suite of the integrated planning and reporting suite of documents. And at the moment, we're obviously having those on exhibition for the community to comment on, and ultimately they'll be reported back to council in June for consideration for adoption. The advocacy we've done, the engagement that's been done over the past few years has informed the updating of that integrated planning and reporting suite of documents. And that has been extensive across a number of topics, and that's all come together to inform those plans. And the public exhibition phase is about validating with the community that we've heard the key issues out there, built those into the plans, and they're fit for purpose for the future of our community. The framework itself, or the plans for the Port Macquarie Hastings, really provides a roadmap for our future. So from providing a long-term vision for what we want the community to look like and the area to look like going forward, through to the detailed actions about how we're going to bring that vision into effect. So the Community Strategic Plan is the highest level document underneath that underpins the integrated planning and reporting framework. And it articulates that high-level vision, our aspirations as a community, and how we will seek to deliver on that. We call that plan our the Imagine 2050 document, and within that plan is a high-level vision for our local government area to be the most livable, sustainable, and innovative place within Australia. Underneath the Community Strategic Plan, we have the delivery program, which is about how we're bringing that vision into effect. So it covers the 4-year term of council and has the detailed action plans that council will seek to deliver over its 4-year term. Within that document, there are council's priorities outlined for this 4-year term, and unsurprisingly, infrastructure is a really strong focus within that plan. So that's our water and sewer infrastructure in terms of providing for our growth, our treatment for water and sewer, and also the network. Our transport infrastructure, so across our local, regional and state road networks, the safety of those networks, the capacity, but also the condition. And noting that the state road network is actually provided by the New South Wales Government, being the Pacific Highway and the Oxley Highway. But we do have an advocacy role in terms of the standard of that network that's provided by the New South Wales Government. Our recreational infrastructure, ensuring that's fit for currently and also into the future, and we certainly strongly list within that plan our advocacy role there to seek to gain funding to support the delivery of key projects in that space. Affordable housing has been a key issue, and that is clearly listed within the delivery program. Finally, the plan outlines that the quadruple bottom line will inform the decision-making of council, taking into account the principles that are within that quadruple bottom line. So that's our delivery program. Within the delivery program, we have our operational plan, which is the annual plan. It has the detailed projects and initiatives that we take in or undertake year in, year out. And we do update that each year through the delivery program cycle. That's where the detail is, and certainly the directors here will outline some of the key actions that are within the operational plan for the coming year. Sitting underneath those key plans is the resourcing strategy, which Lucilla mentioned there earlier. And it is about ensuring we have the resources to deliver on our plans from a financial, from a workforce and also from an asset management perspective. So it covers those topics and underpins those key plans so that we can seek to deliver on those. And with all those plans being on exhibition, we've got the next month for the community to have the opportunity to provide comment. And we certainly look forward to seeing what we hear over the coming months in terms of the community. Have we heard what the community would like to see? Are there things that, in addition to what we put in the plans, that the community would like to see?
Thank you so much, Rob. And yes, obviously, as you said, all of our plans are based on the feedback that we've received from the community over the last couple of years and beyond. So we did a huge piece of work to develop Imagine 2050. All of that and the data that we've collected from engagement has helped guide and build the plans that are currently out there. But we do have a great panel with us today. So we've got all of our directors from across the organisation. We have Cameron, who's the Director of Community Utilities, which is our water, sewer, wastewater, water and waste space. We have Mel, who is our Director of Community Planning and Environment. We have Keith Hentschke, who is our Director of Business and, Performance. I was going to say Operations. And then we have Blayne, who is our Director of Community Infrastructure. So each of our panel members are going to take just a few minutes just to tell you about areas within the plan that they will be focusing on for the next 4 years. But make sure you're asking questions. Jump on the Facebook page, ask your questions, and we will be getting to them shortly. But I might start with Cameron.
No, thanks, Lucilla. Yeah, so community utilities is that essential service of providing water, a water supply service, the wastewater service to take away the wastewater for treatment prior to releasing that back into the environment, and the waste service to ensure that we have a livable community. So it really plays into and is outlined in the plans around that stable infrastructure was a key priority that the community had put forward in the engagement we undertake for the Imagine 2050 Community Strategic Plan. So we've really built on that and some significant investment as both the Mayor and acting CEO has outlined that real focus on that critical infrastructure. For example, in the water space, over the 4-year delivery program, there's in excess of $268 million of investment in our water supply network, with $180 million of that going into the Coral Water Supply Scheme. So that is a key project of council that we'll be delivering over the next 4 years. The planning and approvals is in place now. That's happening. We're looking to hopefully commence construction in this next 12-month operational plan in 2026. So that will ensure our water security for our growing community, but also improve the livability of our region by providing that the water treatment across the region in enhancing our water supply. In the wastewater space, again, another significant amount of investment, over $266 million, with about $160 million of that going to the Thrumster supply, the Thrumster wastewater scheme. Again, ensuring that livability, ensuring that we have the sewage treatment capacity for our growing community, and that will be delivered over the next 4 years as well. Now, on top of those major projects, is also ensuring that we address our ageing infrastructure as well. So there's a big focus on the renewing of infrastructure. A lot of it is unseen, so the community do go about their daily lives, but it's a 24-hour business in terms of making sure that we have the water supply and the wastewater and the waste services there. So not only providing for a growing community, but understanding that we have existing infrastructure, make sure it's stable and have a livable community. Not as big as investment, but it's just as important is continuing to make sure that our waste services are there to support a growing community as well and ensure that we protect the environment. So investment over the next 12 months in continuing to plan for the expansion of Cairncross Waste Management Facility to make sure in the years to come that we are ready to construct the next stage of our landfill, while also focusing on initiatives for the resource recovery and recycling as well, and the renewing of our contracts for processing waste. So yeah, all these essential services, big focus on stable infrastructure, and we've heard through the community satisfaction surveys around the high importance and trying to maintain those high levels of satisfaction through these essential services. That's the focus across the 4 years, and certainly in the next 12 months as well, with the investment in critical infrastructure.
Thank you, Cameron. And we have heard from the community how important that being future-proof and future-ready, but also looking after our current assets is really important to the community. So it's really great that we can share that information with the community. Mel, would you like to tell the people out there what you're doing in the next 4 years?
I sure would, Lucilla. Building on the themes that we've already heard from the Mayor and the Acting CEO, the Community Planning and Environment Division will actually be continuing to deliver on strategies and actions that manage development and protect our environment. It's a unique environment here in our local area, and we need to protect it. To do that, we'll be providing for in the operational plan through assessment of planning proposals, assessment of land use applications, developing contributions plans to make sure that development is minimising the impact on existing infrastructure. We'll be actually doing biodiversity management action plans that will be reviewed this year, and development of the new coastal management program. In addition to those actions in the natural environment, we'll also be spending $3.3 million on the management of natural resources. So big investments in our built natural environment. The division will also be focusing in our delivery program on the management of community facilities and amenities, and through the operational plan, we'll be still focused on that new aquatic facility for Port Macquarie, with funding still being an advocacy role for council to try and seek that funding to deliver a really significant priority for the community. Looking at new sporting fields for Thromstar, and a regional play space for the Camden Haven will be an important deliverable for the next 12 months. We're also allocating $12.8 million to maintain all our pools, parks, playgrounds, open spaces and playing fields. Very important for our community. The third priority for the division will be planning for housing diversity and affordability, and we heard that's a really big issue for our community. We understand it's a state and national issue, but it is particularly hitting our community as well. So through advocacy and collaboration with other levels of government, we'll be certainly focusing on that issue of affordability and delivering our housing strategy and action plans so we can actually provide for housing for a very, very fast growing community. We'll also be looking at community services and catering for changing needs of our community, and looking at supporting those, continuing to support community events and grants, our cultural programs, public health programs, looking at delivering our compliance services, significant investment to maintain our libraries. Our libraries are very important assets for our community. And also development of a new community centre for Port Macquarie is on the agenda for the next 12 months. Providing support for the local economy and making sure that our communities and villages and towns remain vibrant is a big priority for us through economic development, through the provision of grants and the maintaining of events. Looking at supporting local industry through development services and economic development services and support, and looking at $1.7 million for community activation projects is very important to make sure that vibrancy is maintained. Another important and exciting project for us will be the development of a City Heart Master Plan for the town centre of Port Macquarie, which will see the centre of Port Macquarie actually develop into more than what it currently is, and to make sure it is a vibrant destination for visitors and our residents. That's it.
Thank you, Mel. You have a very varied directorate, so there's a lot of really important information there, and I guess the takeaway is that we're strategising and planning for that future piece.
That's right, exactly. It's important.
Blayne.
Hi.
I'd like to talk about all things community infrastructure.
I'd love to, thank you. And I just have to say, yeah, backing behind, listening to Mel and Cam and certainly our Mayor and our CEO, there's just an incredible amount of stuff that's happening in this space, and it's a really exciting space. So I get to act in the director role at the moment for community infrastructure, which looks at all things roads, transport paths, bridges, stormwater, and of course our ferries, and our fleet management within council. So another, big piece, but a very collaborative piece with our other departments, which is really exciting for us. Over the next 4 years, and certainly what we've heard from our community and we can hear from where our Mayor is speaking in, infrastructure is an incredible piece to us, growing the region and ensuring that we can move people safely, quickly, efficiently in this space is important for us. So when we talk about that, the really interesting part is we're not just talking in the road space. We're talking about how do we do accessibility planning? How do we look at moving people in an active transport way? How do we diversify the way we engage with our region? And so we are looking at a 4-year program that looks at a lot of data collection concepts, modeling, also accompanied with some really great on-ground work, though, to complete. So the really exciting part for me is that it's this investment into future that Cam speaks about, the investment into the intergenerational. We'll be looking at some of the network modeling as we move forward and gathering data in that space. We're certainly looking at area structure plans and how do we support growth in our region from understanding where that's coming. We're doing that through data collection, and we're also out understanding our condition of what our infrastructure looks like at the moment. So what do the unsealed roads and the sealed roads and the paths look like, and where do we have to invest our money from a maintenance perspective? So there's a really exciting space in that. The on-ground, though, which of course everyone wants to know about in our capital works and what's being invested back into our region, we're going to see the completion of Ocean Drive. And as the Mayor had mentioned, some of the things that have really challenged us as a council and as how do we grow and build on our capacity to deliver things. Ocean Drive has been a major milestone for PMHC, and it's certainly one we're excited about presenting to our community in its completion. We'll also see the kickoff of Mariah River and the sealing of the construction there to that. So that will help a large portion of our North Shore community, and that'll be exciting to see the on-ground occurring there. We have a number of paths, so some of our Camden Haven community would be really excited about, and I certainly am, Beach to Beach, a small section that's very significant, that goes actually out on a boardwalk out into the water itself, into the river, which will be a real masterpiece of something that's going to be a beautiful, aesthetically pleasing connection to a path, and it will connect to up to 12 kilometres of footpath, which is very exciting for us. We are also seeing the commencement of a new bridge at Beechwood on the Steeles Bridge is coming. So we're looking at how do we improve our resilience from our flood modelling and the disaster relief that's coming. So we have some major projects in that space. We're working on some flood studies, like the Hastings River Drive will actually go into management and mitigation plans. So we'll be looking at how do we improve resilience and improve our community for understanding where floods are happening and how we're disaster ready. So again, kind of just working within the livability space and working on how do we improve the areas so that we make this growth area someplace unique and that people want to invest in. And of course, I always have to mention our stormwater, sorry. It's an important one to me. It's the one that often gets missed out. So we are doing some work down at Westport Buller Street along Buller, where we'll actually look at replacing some of the aged stormwater infrastructure. And it's the things that I believe Cam has mentioned as well that, we don't see often. And so we don't see the investment. We can't see because they're under the ground, so we don't see the work being done, but an incredibly important space for us to be investing in going forward as well.
Thank you, Blayne. And I think it's really exciting because we've been doing so much work to develop our regional infrastructure plans, our integrated transport plan, and we're actually seeing some of these things through the network, through the data, to actually see on-ground work. So it's very exciting. And that really comes down to that asset management piece that Cameron was talking about before. Keith, over to you and what business and performance is doing through our plans this time around.
Thank you, Lucilla, and good evening to everyone online. Let me take you into the world of business and performance. You're probably wondering, what is business and performance? Well, we have a few aspects in our division, but really the majority of the division provides the internal corporate service functions to all of council. So that's things like human resources, IT, safety, legal and governance, financial services, procurement, communications and transformation, and hopefully I haven't left any of my team out. We also have, from a community-facing perspective, we have the customer service team as part of the business and performance division. And we also operate the commercial business units, which includes the glasshouse, the airport, the laboratory, and the strategic property portfolio of council. So we are the corporate really the team that provides the corporate enablement for many of the services delivered by the other divisions for the community. And we are really a core cost of, running the business of council. Over the next 4 years, I guess, probably what the main areas which we will focus on is we're partway through a kind of major business improvement initiative plan, which really seeks to improve the way the efficiencies, the way council operates effectively and efficiently, and increasing productivity from the internal service provision. That's really underpinned by a significant technology uplift program that we're running, which will impact all areas of council. So that will continue on for probably another 4 or 5 years, where we're even thinking like 2030. So that's a significant investment, and with significant outcomes for the way we do business. I'd also kind of like to say, I guess within the technology space, a couple specific things that we are working on. Everyone would be aware of the cybersecurity risks that all businesses face. So that's a big program for us, and really we have dedicated resources to do that, and it's an investment of over $1 million to keep all the data safe. So as we're all aware, the sophistication of hackers has changed dramatically over the last 4 or 5 years. So this is a really important piece of our technology uplift. In the customer service space, we are looking to use technology to improve the way we interact with you, the customer, and the way we manage queries internally. So that's a place to watch as well. If I look into, say, the commercial business units, the Port Macquarie Airport, look out for, we've just recently completed a 20-year master plan on that, which went to council last month. That will be out on Have Your Say, I think it's around the 19th of May. So that's a great opportunity for you to see what the plans are for airport for the next 20 years and provide feedback on that. The glass house itself, we're going through a strategic review at the moment, so that continues into the next year. So, and that will really be, that's an exciting piece of work, because it will really highlight the great work that Glasshouse not only does, but the economic benefit it provides to the region. And for both the Glasshouse and the airport, it's been over 10 years since we've kind of updated these master plans and done strategic reviews. So it's a great time to be looking at that as well. And just to finally, I'd just really like to talk about, I guess, the long-term financial plan, which is part of the resourcing strategy. That really underpins everything that everyone's been talking about, that we've spent a lot of time on this version of the long-term financial plan, making sure we have a really prudent approach across the full 10 years to manage the finances. We've got some amazing infrastructure projects that are going to happen, state significant projects, some of the biggest projects that councils across New South Wales have ever delivered. So we are totally on top of what we need to do from that finance perspective, but also ensure that we're meeting the financial sustainability needs that, where we need to be across the next 10 years and even beyond. So that's a bit of a snapshot of the business and performance.
Thank you so much, Keith. And I know that we've done a load of work, your team specifically, around the long-term financial plan to make sure that we are in a good position and that we're setting ourselves up for success.
Well, now it's time for the questions. So make sure that you're still sending them in. I'm going to start with the first one to our Mayor, Adam. So Adam, we have heard and we did hear in your opening remarks that you've been advocating for Port Macquarie Hastings region. Can you tell us a little bit about how you've been doing that and what kind of things you've been able to achieve so far?
Yes, well, thank you for the question. For the last 6 months or so since I was elected as Mayor, I've taken an approach of probably trying to form relationships more than anything with very key players in our region, but also with other levels of government as well. So kicking off, I think there's 4 or 5 new mayors up and down the coast. So I've taken some time to get to know our regional mayors and really tried to help foster a relationship between our council and other councils, because I think there's a lot of common issues that we face as a region, but also as individual councils. So part of the approach I've been taking is to form relationships, to open dialogue, to talk about some of the fundamental issues that we have as a region, but also councils. Some of the things like infrastructure, deficits of funding, cost shifting, that sort of stuff, but also some really positive approaches on how we can collaboratively work together to advocate for the big issues that are known to us, but also emerging as well. Most of our region is growing at a rate of knots. We're not seeing the level of support we need to keep up with the demands for infrastructure. So that's a big gap. And the only way we can sort of talk about that and get some traction and some support is to work together. And so what I've also done is met with our state and federal MPs quite regularly, particularly through we've had a state and also current federal campaign, and get in front of candidates as well as the local members to really push our priorities as a region, but also our specific project priorities. So over the last few months, with the help of staff, we've put together a bit of a shopping list of things that we need funding support for. And I did have an opportunity in the last few weeks with Director Fish and Acting CEO Fish to make representations to local government minister directly in Grafton. So I'm spending a little bit of time outside the region to form those relationships, to push our region's priorities, but also to make sure that the priorities that candidates take to elections are the priorities that we actually need delivered on the ground here. So that's been a really big program. It has been a pleasure to do that because I've been supported with such great data and information from a financial point of view, but also a project-based point of view. So I've actually had a bit of a roadmap to use, and I do want to thank the staff for the work they've done, but also acknowledge that as a council, we've progressed to a point over the last few years where we're getting really mature and strategic in our approach to identifying what the key priorities are. That makes my job easier. So my job at the moment is probably in the sales role as much as anything, to sell the vision, sell the picture, to get others on board. I do want to thank the current members, state and federal, but also the mayors up and down the coast for jumping on board and really working together as a unit to push the priorities for the area. So that's been a big project. I see that continuing, even as early as next week, being down in Parliament again to meet with ministers to push our big projects.
Excellent. Thank you, Adam. I think it's really heartening for the community to hear that not only are you out there advocating for us as a community, but also working with our other regional areas to have a bigger voice.
Yep.
We do have a question that's come through from Dean. It is a little bit in the weeds around specific things, but nonetheless, I'm going to throw this one to Rob, and it's about our fees and charges in general, but this one is specifically about the ferry fees for North Shore, and a bit of the rationale around why we have a charge for the ferries and what we've done in the past to look at ways to advocate for that, but also how we're supporting the communities across the whole LGA and why we have fees and charges.
Yeah, thanks, Lucilla. Yes, so Council reviews its fees and charges on an annual basis, and they're about ensuring that Council is able to provide the services underneath those fees, but also ensure that I guess the burden on the wider community on providing particular services is, I guess, borne fairly across those using the service and also within the broader community. When you look at our ferry fares, they were unchanged for a number of years. So from approximately, I think it was 2015 to 2021, there was no changes to ferry fares. Yet the cost of providing those services continues to grow, obviously, each year. So since 2022, there has been increases put in place through the annual fees and charges for the ferries. and that is sought to ensure that increasing cost of providing the service is actually provided for. Despite the income that we do generate through the fees and charges for the fares for the ferries, we do make a significant loss on that service each year, well over $1 million, which ultimately the broader community needs to fund to provide that ferry service. We have been advocating strongly with the New South Wales government, seeking to get, I guess, the contribution from the New South Wales government, or even for them to take over the service. We're one of the few local governments in New South Wales that actually provides ferry services in the state. Most of the ferry services are provided by the New South Wales government. So if you look at the Clarence River, Hawkesbury River and the Murray River, for example, they're all ferry services provided by the New South Wales government, fully funded by the broader New South Wales taxpayers. So we do need to increase them annually to provide for that increasing cost and to ensure that, that cost burden is not borne, or is appropriate in terms of what's borne by the broader community. I think the other thing is that we do have a significant discount available for our members of the community, and there's annual, weekly, monthly and 25 ticket book options available, which are at a significant discount for our community. And that's not just purely to our North Shore community. All residents within the Port Macquarie Hastings have access to those lower charges if they get the annual pass.
Thank you, Rob. And we know across the country that cost of living is an issue for everybody, but council also has that issue with increasing costs for everything that we're doing. So it's around how to find that good balance, I guess.
Yeah, if you consider the utilities that you provide for, whether it's power for your property, those costs are certainly growing each year. And yeah, we bear obviously those in the cost of that in the services that we provide and need to provide for that.
Thank you, Rob. Our next question, which is a topic probably close to everybody's heart who drives into Port Macquarie ever, is Wrights Road. Now, whilst Wrights Road roundabout is not a council road, as we know, it's a state road. Blayne, can you talk about some of the things that we're doing around our networks and things to alleviate the issue of traffic congestion and the continual issue with Wrights Road and community frustration, I guess, in that space?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and not surprising, it's a topic of concern for people. I certainly know as someone that uses that area, it can be frustrating. And as Lucilla, as you mentioned, the Oxley Highway and the Wrights Road roundabout are actually state owned, but that doesn't mean that we don't have a role within the network outside of that we manage. And as we often say, what's within control of council and what's within our influence. So in the influence space, and certainly some of the work that our mayor has been advocating for, we work with the state government to write the integrated transport plan, and we've worked on a partnership program to look at how can we alleviate that pressure. So what programs and on-ground work will they be doing in the Oxley corridor? Some of the things we're doing in our local network are things such as the health and education precinct. So this year in the operational plan, we've finalized some work on understanding what does the modeling look like. And now in the next few years, we will look to going, what are some of the things we can do on ground to alleviate? So one of the network changes we can do. Certainly one of the network changes we're looking at is progressing Lake Road. So we've worked with National Parks and Wildlife, and that's an excellent milestone for us this year, was working with them to get the revocation bill passed through Parliament, which means now that we can move on to our environmental approvals and we can be in the space that's ready for grant applications. So it's really important for community to know that a lot of these, as Keith has mentioned, are expensive projects, millions upon millions, tens of millions of dollars to do. But where we'll be within 25-26 is in a position to actually apply to grants for the construction of Lake Road. At the same time, we have, on the other side of our network, Hastings River Drive, substantially commencing our DA at that one. So again, we're ready, in the driver's seat when a grant becomes available to apply for funding for Hastings River Drive to finish the duplication there. We have some work in the area structure plan and working with Mel's division around how do we plan for the future growth and where do the contributions come from and the planning for more roads in that space. We're also looking at active transport. So we are actually looking at more footpaths. We have some local, Baronia and Lord and Herschel, which are away from that area, but we're certainly looking at, we've finished the Lake Road footpath just as of late, and we worked on some just near the TAFE as well. So we are looking at diversifying how do people move in our network, and of course working to advocate with New South Wales government on 16 cities and the bus routes. And again, how do we encourage people to get onto the public transport system, and how do we work with the state through that? And some of the things in our control, again, are better bus shelters, reducing barriers for why people aren't using things like public transport. So, there's no one simple answer to the question, but that is part of infrastructure, really, and part of our diversification.
And I think if people are really interested, they can go online onto our website and have a look at the Integrated Transport Plan, which does talk about a lot of these projects.
Absolutely.
In line with all things transport. Our next question's from Tyson, and it's around CBD parking, and I know that you have a project that's almost about to run now. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So another one that has started in the 24 and 25 was the parking management plan. So we finished our parking management plan, and this is often the kind of concerning part for community because it seems like we're in planning, but we finished our parking management strategy and we started on to the CBD precinct plan. So we are about halfway through that parking management plan precinct for the CBD at the moment, which will look to go, what are the solutions we're looking at? We know we have an 80% capacity rate already, a use rate within the CBD, and so we know it is our major area to look to. We identified within that plan are investigating things such as, and sometimes they're not taken as the best idea, but the paid parking is an option for us as one of the ways to encourage turnover in the CBD area so that we get that economic growth and that turnover of people in the area, keeping it busy and vibrant. We're also looking at other solutions about DT solutions or electronic solutions to tell people better about where can you park, where can you find the parking spots, more of the signage idea. So that work is being completed at the moment. We will see in 25-26 the completion of the parking precinct plan. And again, linking to our long-term financial plan, the idea is once we have that, we can actually put forth the solutions for funding options going forward.
Excellent. I think part of the solutions that you were talking about is that different. So if people whether that's cycling, walking, the buses, then that changes parking as well.
Absolutely.
My next question is going to be for Mel, and it's around our sporting facilities. So we've got a question from Simon around the level of embellishment our sporting facilities have compared to some of our counterparts like Coffs Harbour and Tamworth. Probably not necessarily at the same scale as Newcastle. Can you talk a little bit about the work that's being done in the background from a strategic perspective around our sports facilities?
Yep, sure. Thanks for the question, Simon. It's a really good one. I think when we start comparing ourselves to places like Coffs Harbour and Tamworth, we need to really look at how the funding arrived in those areas for the really great facilities they have. And a lot of that has been government funding for some of their major facilities have been as a result of those investments at different levels and rather than at the local level. Newcastle, very different scale, as Lucilla mentioned, where you've got the population to support and that sort of investment based on their rate base. But for us, I'd love to see more investment in our facilities to upgrade what we have. We are focused very heavily at the moment on making sure we're understanding what our asset management liabilities are across all of our infrastructure for recreation. And that's been a big focus for the last 18 months to 2 years. We are now looking at that through the long-term financial planning is actually funding the works that need to be done to bring the facilities that we already have up to an appropriate standard. But we're also still in the grants field as well, looking for any grants that are available for particular upgrades for things like disabled facilities or female change facilities in some of our other centres. So those grants are always available and we are actively seeking to get those grants on the ground. But it really is about how we're strategically planning to make sure that we have funding, we're aware of what our liabilities are, and we're actually funding those areas with the greatest demand. So to support the work on the existing facilities, we're also looking at new facilities, which in the future have been funded or will be funded significantly by developer contributions, which does take some of that burden off council and also contributes back to the economy and our local infrastructure offer for our local government area. So, that's it.
Thank you, Mel. And there was a subsequent question around the War Hope Indoor Stadium. So that was one of the ones that Mel was alluding to, the fact of our asset management priorities. So we have a number of recreational assets, and that is one that's on the list of things that we need to review. So there is no plan at this point to do anything at Indoor Stadium because of the money and where it sits within our priorities of the asset management plan, but it is on the list. Here's a DA question. Mel, again, in the hot seat. We have a question from Lee, who wants to know why we have to pay mandatory contributions to council when purchasing a commercial block. Can you talk a little bit about how developers' contributions work and how they then support what council is doing?
Yeah, great question. And thank you, Lee. I guess contributions are paid at two levels, and one is when subdivisions are first proposed and approved, and contributions are collected for a variety of things, whether it's recreation facilities, roads, water, sewer, community facilities. There's a myriad of things that they're collected for. There's a general contribution that's made up front at a subdivision stage, but when a development is proposed on the new lots within a new subdivision, the differences in the development types generates the demand for different infrastructure. So contribution rates vary depending on the development that goes on lots. If it's an industrial building, or if it's a transport depot, or if it's a commercial property, they all have different development contribution rates. So we have a general rate that is applied at a subdivision stage, and then there's a subsequent one that deals with the detail of the actual use that goes on the lot. So those contributions really assist offsetting the impact on local infrastructure and take some of that burden off the local ratepayers that is met by development in our area.
Thank you, Mel. Next one, we're back to roads. So this is a double-barrel question that I'm going to ask Blayne. I guess the first one is, can you talk a little bit, question from Nathan, about what's the plan with our roads, and specifically about maintenance of our roads and subsoil drainage and those kind of things. Can you talk about the program for maintenance for our road assets, which is, it's talking about our ageing infrastructure, as we mentioned before. So how do we manage that?
Absolutely, and thank you to Nathan, and I'm sure a few community members out there that are interested in our road space. And there's a big part of this. We have a very large network, both of sealed and unsealed road network, in our LGA that we have to manage. We talk about the asset management plans, and really that is a plan that looks at how do we fund, maintain, and understand the condition of our assets and our transport assets. So in that space, what it fundamentally looks at, and the question about, how do you understand where you invest in and what do you do, we have to first understand the condition of our full network and then prioritize our network based on a number of issues. Safety is obviously the number one thing for us, and condition moving forward. So we're looking at sealed roads. That could be the potholes. If we're looking at our unsealed sections, that's going to be about our veg clearing, and that's going to be about our gravel resheeting and the condition of the roads as well. So in that, we follow our asset management plans, and we invest in the most highly prioritized roads. We have $7.7 million investment in next year's OP for our sealed road network section, which will be great in the maintenance space and the sealed roads. We have over $1 million within a number of different sections in the unsealed as well, though. We have resheeting, we will have vegetation management, we have drainage that we will do on our roads as well. Understanding that our network is so large that we have to prioritize, though, means for our community that it's difficult sometimes when you do live on one of those unsealed road sections and you feel that council's not getting out enough. Our program for our gravel roads or unsealed roads is either a yearly or two yearly, 6 monthly, to get the graders out on those roads, and even providing that service and the vegetation clearing and spraying multiple times a year can be stretched when we have a large growing season or a season of really wet weather. So it's incredibly dependent in our unsealed road space based on the weather patterns we're also getting.
Perfect. Thank you, Blayne. And I know that you mentioned Maria River Road and that project that is happening at the moment in partnership with Kempsey Council. Do you have any timing around when that will actually be seen on ground?
Well, crystal balls are great, Lucilla, but
I know it's a very complex issue and there's a whole lot of approval still required, but I know that you are working on doing some works this year.
Absolutely, we absolutely are, and I'm not meaning to take away from it. I understand our community is incredibly interested in this project, certainly our North Shore community. We are working through the approvals with Kempsey Council at the moment and finalising all of the environmental approvals and planning approvals at the moment. So we're making excellent headway with those at the time. We just went to council actually and if for anyone that was following the council meeting from last month, and we have looked to move on an EOI for contract negotiations for the construction phase of Maria, which is excellent. So that means that we've working actually hand in glove with a number of contractors to create and prepare what does the tender look like. So what that means is we actually bring in consultants and contractors to help us do the detailed design and then the delivery so that it's very cost effective for our community to provide, because it's a really long stretch of road that we're sealing. So in regards to timing, as I said, EOI is out with the tender at the moment, so that's moving along really well. We're looking to finalize approvals over the next few months, and hopefully, with all things going well, we will see probably Q1, so that kind of July, August, September time, that we will see the contract signed and potential construction commencing around that Q1, Q2 in 2025. So we will keep the community abreast of where we're at, and certainly if there are things that take us off track. But the staff have been working very hard and very closely with Kempsey to move this forward.
Excellent. Thank you, Blayne. Adam, I'd like to ask you a question around, you've spoken about advocacy and I guess your key focus of infrastructure. What do you hope to achieve, or what looks like success to you at the end of your 4-year term?
It's a very broad question, but thank you. I think what I would hope to achieve as a council, as a collective, is that we can work some ways to bridging the gap between what we're able to deliver in our own means or within community budget constraints and that sort of thing with where we need to get to ultimately. And I'll frame it in that on Council's website, we have a document that highlights all the projects that we're trying to get funding for. So for me, if I can get as many funding commitments as possible off that list, I think that'll go a long way to what I'd call success. I will caveat that by saying we're looking at more than $600 million worth of funding commitments that I'm trying to seek. So, if we can get a few million, great. If we can get tens of millions, even better. But the further into that we can get across the 4 years, I think we'll all be in a better place.
Absolutely. Thank you, Adam. Keith, what are you most looking forward out of the plans of being achieved for your division? Or is there something that sticks out the most that you would like to see develop over the next 4 years?
Look, I think as I alluded to before, it's really the tech uplift, because I can really see the benefits to all of council operations of us achieving that. I think you look at, and it's not just Port Macquarie Hastings Council, it's all councils struggle with financial sustainability. There's been multiple government inquiries over the last 20 years with very little outcome. So I think it's looking at what we can control, and I think we've got a great team in place. We would love to have a bigger team because it would mean we could move quicker, but I think it will completely, in some aspects, it will completely transform the way we manage business and create the efficiencies and productivity gains and savings which we can reinvest into, if you like, the real things that the community see in terms of extra maintenance on roads and parks and gardens and things like that. So I think, so there's that aspect, and then as I also alluded to, that just making sure in that long-term financial sustainability that that we remain on track. You know, we've got a few, you know, our long-term financial plan is underpinned by financial assumptions. We look at what's happening globally at the moment, and, you know, there's, you know, that could impact, you know, our assumptions. But so it's really important for us to be completely on top of that. So that is a key focus for us.
Fantastic. Thank you, Keith. Cam, I know that we haven't had very many questions for you right now, but I really wanted to
It's all on the ground.
touch on base. I think around, there is so many big projects happening in the utility space. Touch on one of those for us around the things that people are going to see over those 4 years.
Yeah, I think that the large projects, like the Quarra Water Supply Scheme, which is just to the south of Quarra Dam, build a new water treatment plant. Again, it'll be largely unseen by the community unless you're out enjoying the state forest or other parts of our community out, or you're a member of the motocross track, etc. Out there, you'll see the works. A part of that project though is what's called the Northern Arm Trunk Main. So that's the water pipeline that'll supply the filtered water into Port Macquarie, sort of via Sandcrocs and Thrumster. So that will be, I suppose, visible infrastructure as the crews go through. At the end of the day, that'll be all buried, and the community won't see it once it's operational, which is a good thing in terms of providing that. So, and the Thrumster, the wastewater scheme again out off Fernbank Creek Road, council-owned land just west of the airport there. So again, largely won't be seen by the majority of our community. Obviously, we're engaging with and in discussions with the residents that live out in that area in terms of the project, the impacts that will occur during construction, and the mitigation measures that we're implementing for that as well. Parts of the wastewater network, so there'll be works around Hastings River Drive and some of the diversions of our wastewater network out to the new treatment plant Thrumster. Again, increasing that capacity and improving the infrastructure to protect the environment. We've seen with the recent wet weather that it does impact our sewage network, so that these infrastructure upgrades will aid with that. So it's there's a lot going on, and these big projects, unlike Ocean Drive, very visible to a large part of our community who transit that sort of day in, day out. These large water and wastewater projects largely unseen during the construction. But yeah, as Keith and others have said, is a significant investment over the next 4 years. I'd also like to touch on some of the stuff, not necessarily on the big projects, but to echo some of the stuff Keith said around that tech uplift in the community-facing services like community utilities or community infrastructure, the ability for the crews to have access to cloud-based servers to do their documentation or access to data in the field. If there's a water mains break at 3 o'clock in the morning, having access to the right safety documentation, the right data effectively means that at 3 o'clock in the morning they can quickly repair, do the work safely and document what's happened, have access to our geospatial information system in the field. That really improves that efficiency, gets things done quickly so that they can spend their time what's important, which is doing the repair work, by having that tech uplift and that support from those corporate services. So people don't often see in the large investment, and people may see the several millions of dollars going towards our ICT uplift in the plans and think, well, why is that going? That's not a direct impact to the community, but I suppose it is a direct impact when the crews can be more efficient in the field, get things done quickly because they are supported by the corporate services. I think that's really important. It actually is investment in the community by having that ability, because infrastructure, utilities are that 24/7 service. People are always out and about and need those services, so that's it is important.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Cameron. We've actually come to the end of our time, but if we didn't get to all the questions today, we will get responses to all of your questions and have them up on our Have Your Say site and on this Facebook post. But there are so many ways that you can get involved and engage on these plans as we move over the next couple of weeks. There'll be pop-ups across the region. We'll have coffee chats in all of Laurelton, Moorhope and Port Macquarie. There's senior chats. You can jump on our website on our Have Your Say and see all of the different ways that you can get engaged with us to provide your feedback on the plans or have questions around what council is actually doing. We would really encourage you to look at all the different ways you can engage. We love the feedback. As we said, our plans are based on your feedback, but if there's things that you think are missing or things that you wanted to clarify, we really encourage you to come and talk to our engagement team. But I'm going to hand over to Adam for the final word.
Thanks, Lucilla. Firstly, just want to thank the panel. Thank you for your answers, your insights. Clearly, as we know, though, we've only just scratched the surface of all the things that council looks after on behalf of our community. So, again, I want to thank our staff for the incredible work that you guys do, the people on the ground that actually deliver for us year on year, as I said at the start, but also really encourage our community to engage in this process. We do know that a lot of your feedback has already been part of creating the documents that we have, but even doing a survey, saying g'day to one of our staff out and about at a pop-up, even if it's positive feedback, hey, I think you guys are on the right track, all of that adds up, gives us confidence, certainly makes the process worthwhile for us. And as councillors, we read as much as we can, any week anyway, but sometimes it's good just to check in, make sure that we're hitting the mark as far as your expectations as a community. But again, a complex beast we look after. We've got some great staff, and I think generally speaking, I think we're heading in a really strong direction to make sure our community is, again, the best place to live, work and also do business. So thanks very much for tuning in.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you, everybody. See you next week.